Dust Bowl, here we go. The Great Depression affected Americans in both urban and rural areas. In cities, businesses shut down and many people lost their jobs. People could no longer afford to buy many things they needed. Farmers also suffered because people in the cities could not afford to buy their foods. City dwellers saved in every way they could. They made their own clothes instead of buying them. Some even cut their food budgets by growing their own vegetables in small gardens. People bought cheaper foods like bread and potatoes instead of milk, meat, and fruit. Many of them did not get enough to eat, and some even starved to death. While people in cities were starving, farmers had more food than they could sell. City dwellers could not afford to pay much for food that was shipped from farms. Farmers and ranchers would lose money if they kept shipping crops and livestock that no one would buy. Therefore, they let their crops rot in the fields and killed their herds. They had no other choice. Because they could not sell their crops, farmers did not make money. Many were unable to pay their mortgages, so their farms were taken by banks. To make matters worse, a drought hit the Great Plains in the 1930s. An area made up of parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico became known as the Dust Bowl. It was called the Dust Bowl because strong winds lifted the dry soil and started dust storms. These dust storms were so bad that schools and businesses had to close. The dust was so thick that sometimes it was dark as night during the day. The drought made it impossible for crops to grow, so many people went hungry. Many farmers decided to move. Whole families packed up their belongings and drove to California. The farmers hoped to find jobs picking fruit there. These people were called Okies because many of them were from Oklahoma. When the Okies reached California, some found jobs as migrant workers. This means they traveled from farm to farm, taking jobs picking fruit as it became ripe. The jobs were scarce and did not pay well. Many Okies could not find work at all as California farmers were suffering too. Like the rest of the country, the Okies waited for the Great Depression to end. Americans all over the country struggled to survive. Times were tough for many years until the Depression ended in the early 1940s. The United States had not faced such a difficult economic period since that time. Get the questions. Question 1. During the Great Depression, city dwellers saved money by making their own clothes, growing their own vegetables, and buying cheaper food. So the answer for number 1 is D, all of the above. They did all of that. Number 2, in the 1930s, the Great Plains were hit by a drought. The Great Plains were called the Dust Bowl, A, because strong winds lifted the dry soil and started dust storms. So 3 is A, 1 is D, 2 is C, 3 is A. 4. Many of the Okies moved from the Great Plains to C, California. So 4 is C. And finally, the Great Depression ended in the early 1940s. That would be another C. So to review here, we got D for number 1, B for number 2, A for number 3, C for number 4, and C for number 5. All right, let's look at this chart here. And this map. All right. How many states are part of the Dust Bowl? That would be 4. Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma. Actually, it'd be 5. I apologize. Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. 2 states that weren't involved in the Dust Bowl but were damaged by dust storms. If we look at that again, that would be like Nebraska, Wyoming, South Dakota would be 3 off the bat that weren't part of the Dust Bowl. So you can go with South Dakota, Nebraska, or Wyoming as any of your 2. And then how many total states were affected by the dust storm? We had 5 in the Dust Bowl, 3 other ones, so that would be 8. Now your last part, the extension activities, you're going to choose one of these questions and you're going to answer it in 3 or more sentences. If you want to do number 2, click on this and it'll click on this link right here, use the internet, and that will explain what the bonus army is. If you want to do number 1, would you rather lived in a city or farm during the Great Depression? All right, hope this helped you. Any further questions, feel free to email me. Thanks.